There is a photograph from May of 2007 taken in Greensburg, Kansas, 3 days after the EF5 tornado. In the photograph, there is no town. There are foundations. There are pieces of cars. There is a single oak tree snapped in half, with a stop sign wrapped around it like a ribbon on a gift nobody asked for. The mayor is in the corner of the frame, and he is smiling. He is smiling because the cameras are there, and because in America, when the cameras are there, you smile, and you say, "We will rebuild, and we will be stronger than before." And then everybody claps, and then the trucks come, and then they pour the concrete, and then they put up the street signs with the same names. And then they wait. They wait for the people to come home. They wait for the children to fill the schools again. They wait for the diner to reopen and the post office to stay open past 3. Most of them never came home. I am Report State, and I have spent the last 7 months reading the documents nobody wants to read out loud. FEMA after-action reports, county recovery dashboards, census tract data that nobody updates because nobody wants to see the numbers. The numbers are bad. The numbers are very bad. And the numbers tell you the same story in 10 different American towns over the last 2 decades. They tell you that America knows how to pour concrete. America knows how to cut a ribbon. America does not know how to bring people home. And in some of these places, America never wanted to. You think you live in a country that rebuilds. You think that when the storm passes or the fire dies down, the trucks come, and the houses come, and the people come, and everything comes back the way it was. That is the story they tell on the evening news. That is the story the governor tells when he stands in front of the rubble in his clean boots. That is not the story the data tells. The data tells you that recovery is a magic trick, and the trick is that the building you see is not the town you remember, and the town you remember is never coming back. And the people who built that town are scattered across 3 states and 4 motels and 1 cemetery, and nobody is keeping count. I am going to keep count. Tonight. This is 10 American towns that were erased and then rebuilt wrong. We are going from number 10 to number 1, and I am telling you right now, before we even start, that number 6 has a brand new downtown with 70% commercial vacancy. Number 2 was rebuilt by essentially one developer who is now a millionaire many times over, while the people who used to live there are still in trailers. And number 1, the towns at number 1, they should not have been rebuilt at all, because the federal government had already decided to erase them, had already lit the fuse, had already accepted that these towns were going to die, and then spent decades pretending otherwise while families breathed in poison and watched their children get sick and were told to be patient and were told help was coming. Help was not coming. Help had already left. If you make it to the end of this video, you will know which zip codes in this country are real towns and which are stage sets. You will know which recovery success stories are press releases and which are real. You will know that when a politician in a clean shirt stands in front of a row of identical new houses and says we have rebuilt, the camera is showing you the houses, and the camera is not showing you the empty schools and the boarded clinics and the families who will never come back. Hit subscribe. Because the next time a disaster hits a town near you, you are going to want to know whose story you are about to be told, and whose story is going to be quietly buried in a footnote of a federal report that nobody reads. Let's break it down. Number 10, Greensburg, Kansas, the Green Mirage. On the night of May 4th, 2007, a tornado 1.75 miles wide came through the town of Greensburg at 205 miles per hour and stayed on the ground for 65 minutes. When the sun came up, 95% of the town was gone. 95%. 11 people were dead. The rest of them were standing in their underwear in the parking lot of what used to be the high school, and they were trying to figure out what county they were in. Population before the storm, 1,574. Population today, according to the most recent census estimate, roughly 740. That is a 53% loss sustained over 17 years, with a national award for green rebuilding hung on the wall of the new city hall. You have probably heard of Greensburg. even if you do not remember why. It is the green model town, the town that came back better, the town that was rebuilt to LEED Platinum standards, with wind turbines on the edge of town, and energy-efficient houses, and a city hall that runs on geothermal. Discovery Channel did a series about it. The Sundance documentaries did a feature. Robert Redford showed up. Brad Pitt did not show up here, but he did show up in New Orleans, and we will get there. The press releases were beautiful. The reality was that they built a beautiful, sustainable, award-winning town for a population that did not exist anymore. A local woman named Linda Mae Carlson, who ran the diner on Main Street for 31 years before the storm, told a Kansas City Star reporter in 2012, quote, "They keep building the buildings, but the people aren't coming. My granddaughter goes to school in Pratt now. The school here is so small, they had to combine grades," end quote. Linda Mae rebuilt her diner. Linda Mae closed her diner in 2015. Linda Mae moved to Wichita. Picture this. You are walking down Main Street in Greensburg on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. The sidewalks are perfect. The streetlights are LED. The signs are crisp and new, and they all say the same things they used to say. First Bank, Greensburg Pharmacy, Kiowa County Memorial Hospital. The buildings look like a postcard from a town that figured it out. And then you notice that you have been walking for 15 minutes, and you have seen 4 people. You notice that the pharmacy window has a sign that says the pharmacist is in 3 days a week and only in the morning. You notice that the hospital has been downgraded from a hospital to a critical access clinic, and the nearest real emergency room is 47 miles away. You notice that the elementary school is using 2 of its classrooms for storage because there are not enough children. You notice that the wind turbines on the edge of town are spinning, and there is nobody in the houses they are powering. That is the Green Mirage. They did everything right on paper. They followed the playbook. They got the awards. The houses are there, the streets are there, the sustainability is there. The town is not there. The town is in Wichita. The town is in Pratt. The town is in Dodge City. The town is scattered across the Midwest and never coming home. Because once a place breaks like that, the things that made anybody want to live there in the first place do not come back just because you build identical houses on top of the foundations. If you think Greensburg is rough, wait until you see what happened in Joplin, Missouri, where the scar from the tornado became, and I am not joking about this, a parking lot. Number 9. Joplin, Missouri. The scar that looks like a park. May 22nd, 2011. EF5 tornado. 3/4 of a mile wide. Stayed on the ground for 38 minutes through the densest part of the city. 161 people dead. The deadliest single tornado in the United States since modern record-keeping began in 1950. Damage estimate, $2.8 billion in 2011 dollars. 8,000 homes destroyed or damaged beyond repair. St. John's Mercy Hospital, which took a direct hit while full of patients, was shifted 4 inches off its foundation. They had to demolish it. Joplin gets a different kind of recovery story than Greensburg, because Joplin had something Greensburg did not have. Joplin had insurance money, federal money, donor money, and a lot of it. And it had a city government that moved aggressively to keep its tax base from leaving. Population before, 50,150. Population today, roughly 51,000. So they actually came out slightly ahead, on paper. On paper. Here is what the population number does not tell you. The pre-storm population of the directly hit neighborhoods, the ones that ran along 26th Street through the heart of the destruction zone, was approximately 17,000 people. The post-storm population of those same neighborhoods, 10 years later, was approximately 7,000. The city kept its overall numbers because new development came in around the edges. The actual neighborhoods that were destroyed never came back. They are now light commercial. They are now a Walmart supercenter. They are now a Home Depot. They are now a parking lot. And I mean that literally. There is an asphalt lot at the corner of South Main Street and East 26th, where there used to be a block of brick row houses that had been there since 1906. A man named Roy DeCastro, who lost his wife Maria in the storm and rebuilt his house on the same lot 2 years later, told the Joplin Globe in 2017 that he was the only original homeowner left on his entire street. Quote, "My wife is in the cemetery, and I am the last person from this block above ground in this zip code. Everyone else cashed the check and left." End quote. Roy DeCastro stayed. Roy DeCastro is 72 years old. When Roy DeCastro is gone, the block will be a developer's lot. This is what nobody tells you about disaster recovery. The insurance check is a one-way ticket. When you get a check for $240,000 and your house is gone, and your neighborhood is gone, and your church is rubble, you do not rebuild. You drive. You drive to your sister's house in Springfield. You drive to your daughter's house in Tulsa. You take the check and you start over somewhere that is not haunted. And the people who do come back are the ones who have nowhere else to go, and the developers who buy up the empty lots for 10 cents on the dollar. Picture this. You drive into Joplin from the south on Main Street. The road is perfect. The signage is new. There is a memorial, a beautiful memorial, with the names of the dead carved in stone. There are murals on the walls of the new buildings. The murals are about resilience. The word resilience is everywhere. Resilience is on the welcome sign. Resilience is on the city website. Resilience is on the 10-year anniversary commemorative coin that the Chamber of Commerce sold for $19.99. And as you drive, you notice that for about a mile and a half through the heart of town, the buildings are all single-story. They are all chain stores. They are all set far back from the road with enormous parking lots. And you realize, slowly, that you are driving through a scar. The scar has been smoothed over with concrete and franchise restaurants, but it is still a scar. Joplin is the success story. Joplin is what we hold up as the model. Joplin kept its population numbers and rebuilt its tax base, and the murals are very nice. The neighborhoods that were destroyed are gone forever, and what replaced them is a strip mall. That is the model. If a strip mall replacing a neighborhood is the success story, you can imagine what the failure stories look like. We are getting there. Number 8, where an entire city lost something you cannot replace. Number 8, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the derecho town that lost its trees. August 10th, 2020. A weather event that most Americans had never heard of called a derecho, a straight-line windstorm with hurricane-force winds traveling on land for hundreds of miles, moved across Iowa at about 60 miles per hour, with winds gusting up to 140. It hit Cedar Rapids square on, and it stayed for 45 minutes. There was no warning system designed for derechos. The sirens did not go off because the protocol did not exist. The first many residents knew about it was when a tree came through their living room ceiling. Cedar Rapids is not a small town, population around 137,000. The derecho was not a small event. Damages, $11 billion across the affected region, with Cedar Rapids absorbing the largest share. 65% of the city's tree canopy, gone. Half the housing stock damaged in some way. Power out for 2 weeks in some neighborhoods. And here is the thing, the national news barely covered it. There was an election going on. There was a pandemic going on. A derecho in Iowa did not break through. The president at the time flew over and waved. That was about it. Now, 4 years later, Cedar Rapids is still a city. The houses got fixed. The roofs got patched. The power lines got rebuilt. By any standard urban metric, Cedar Rapids recovered. The population dropped about 2% and stabilized. The economy bounced back. The crime rate did not change. On paper, this is not a story. Here is what is not on paper: the trees. The trees are not coming back, not in our lifetime. Cedar Rapids was famous for its tree canopy. Old-growth oaks and maples and elms, planted in the 1870s and 80s, that lined every major street and shaded every park and made the summer livable in a place where the heat index regularly hits 110. After the derecho, the city counted approximately 600,000 trees. 600,000. Imagine standing in a place where 600,000 trees used to be, and now there are stumps and saplings and bare sky. Imagine the summer after, when the temperature on the asphalt hit 115 because there was no shade. Imagine the winter after that, when the wind cut straight through the neighborhoods because the windbreaks were gone. Imagine looking out your kitchen window where for 40 years you watched a maple tree turn red every October, and now you watch a chain link fence and your neighbor's siding. A retired school teacher named Dorothy Vinn, who lived in the Wellington Heights neighborhood, told the Cedar Rapids Gazette in 2022, quote, "The houses came back. The trees did not. My grandchildren will be old before this neighborhood looks like a neighborhood again. Right now it looks like a parking lot with houses on it." End quote. Dorothy is right. The city planted 40,000 new trees in the 4 years after. 40,000, replacing 600,000. The math does not work. The trees that were lost were 80 and 100 and 120 years old. The trees that were planted are 6 feet tall. There is no fast forward button on a tree. Cedar Rapids will not look like Cedar Rapids again until every person watching this video is in a nursing home, and most of us will be dead first. This is the rebuilding wrong nobody talks about, because trees do not show up in a recovery dashboard. Trees do not have a FEMA form. Trees do not show up in the population number. Cedar Rapids recovered, and at the same time, Cedar Rapids lost something that cannot be replaced inside a human lifetime. And the city moved on to the next press conference and put the word resilience on its website and stopped counting. Number 8 is the slow erasure. Number 7 is the fast one. Number 7 is a town that was destroyed in one night and forgotten in 6 months, and you have probably never heard its name. Number 7, Waverly, Tennessee. The flood they forgot in 6 months. August 21st, 2021. A weather system stalled over Humphreys County, Tennessee, and dropped 17 inches of rain in 12 hours. 17 inches. The previous 24-hour rainfall record for the entire state of Tennessee was 13.6. They broke it by mid-afternoon. Trace Creek, which on a normal day is a stream you could step over, rose to 25 feet. The town of Waverly, population approximately 4,100, took the full force of that flood at 4 in the morning while most of the town was asleep. 20 people died. A pair of 7-month-old twins, Ryan and Riley Rigney, were ripped out of their father's arms by the water and never found alive. An entire street, including the home of the local sheriff's deputy, was reduced to slabs of concrete and twisted metal. 543 homes were damaged or destroyed. The high school was full of muck up to the second-floor lockers. You did not hear about Waverly. You did not hear about Waverly because Waverly happened the same week that Hurricane Ida hit Louisiana and the same month that Kabul fell. Waverly got about 4 days of national coverage and then disappeared from the news cycle. 20 Americans drowned in their beds in a small Tennessee town, and the country forgot about it before Labor Day. Population today? Approximately 3,700. That is a 10% loss in 3 years. In a town that was already shrinking before the flood. The high school was rebuilt. The downtown got partial federal assistance. The houses along Trace Creek were not rebuilt because FEMA buyouts kicked in on the most damaged parcels, and the land is now Greenway. The Greenway is nice. The Greenway is also an absence because the people who used to live in those houses are not in the Greenway. They are in Camden, in Dixon, in Nashville, in Clarksville. They are scattered. Picture this. You drive into Waverly on a Saturday morning in spring. The town looks fine. The new high school is on the hill, fresh brick. The downtown has its shops. The Walmart is open. The signs of catastrophe are subtle if you do not know to look. You have to know that this empty grass field used to be a street with 12 houses on it. You have to know that the senior center was condemned and its replacement is in a smaller building. You have to know that the volunteer fire department lost 3 of its members in the flood and has been chronically understaffed ever since. You have to know that the local doctor, who had practiced in town for 30 years, lost his clinic and retired and never reopened. And the nearest replacement clinic is 22 miles away in Camden. You have to know all this. If you do not know it, Waverly looks like a small Tennessee town that is just a little quieter than it used to be. That is the sound of a town being forgotten. It does not look like rubble. It looks like a quiet street where there used to be voices. A woman named Amanda Coleman, who lost her mother in the flood and stayed in town to raise her 3 kids, told a local NBC affiliate in 2023, quote, "After about 3 months, the cameras left, the volunteer groups left, the celebrities stopped coming, and we were just here, in our trailer, with the bills and the funeral and the empty lot where Mama's house used to be. Nobody is coming back to check on us." End quote. Amanda is 29 years old. Amanda is doing her best. Waverly was not rebuilt wrong because anyone made bad decisions. Waverly was rebuilt wrong because America has a 6-month attention span for any disaster that is not big enough or photogenic enough to keep the cameras coming back. The aid that came was aid. The buyouts were generous by FEMA standards. The high school is fine. But the soul of a small town is the people who knew each other for 3 generations, and the people who knew each other for 3 generations are not all there anymore. And a town like Waverly does not get them back. It just learns to live smaller, and smaller, and smaller. If Waverly was forgotten because America has a short attention span, number 6 was nearly destroyed because America had a long memory, and the memory was not kind. Number 6. Princeville, North Carolina. The black town they refused to save. You probably do not know this name. You should. Princeville, North Carolina, founded in 1865 by formerly enslaved people on the south bank of the Tar River, was the first town in the United States chartered by Black Americans. The first one. It is older than Tulsa's Greenwood district. It is older than Rosewood. It is one of the founding sites of free Black America. And it has been flooded out of existence twice in 25 years. And both times, the federal government tried to convince the residents to take a buyout and let the town die. Hurricane Floyd, 1999. The Tar River crested at over 24 feet. Princeville was completely submerged for 10 days. Every building flooded. After the water receded, FEMA offered a buyout, federal money to purchase every property in town and turn the entire site into floodplain greenway. The residents voted. The residents voted no. They were not going to be the generation that let the first black town in America die because the river got high. So they rebuilt, without much help. The federal recovery dollars that went to Princeville were a small fraction of what comparable white towns in the area received. This is documented. Studies by Dr. Junia Howell at the University of Pittsburgh have shown that FEMA aid distribution after disasters consistently flows in greater amounts and with fewer obstacles to majority white communities than to majority black communities of similar damage levels. Princeville was the textbook case. Hurricane Matthew, 2016. The Tar River crested at over 23 feet. Princeville flooded again. Most of the buildings that had been rebuilt after Floyd, with their owners' own savings and church and community help, were destroyed a second time. Once again, FEMA pushed buyouts. Once again, the residents resisted. Once again, recovery aid was slow, partial, and accompanied by pressure to accept that the town should be wound down. Population before Floyd, 2,100. Population today, approximately 1,200. That is a 43% loss in a generation. Many of the residents who left did not leave because they wanted to. They left because they could not afford to wait 2 and 3 and 4 years for federal money to rebuild a house when their kids needed schools now and their jobs were elsewhere now. Picture this. You are standing in Princeville on a humid afternoon in July. You can see the Tar River from the edge of town. The levee, which was supposed to be raised after Floyd, and which still has not been adequately raised after Matthew, runs along the riverbank. There are houses, but there are also empty lots where houses used to be. There is a town hall, a small one. There is a church, the Mount Zion Primitive Baptist Church, which has stood since the 1870s, and which has been the spiritual heart of the community for 6 generations. The church is still there. The pews are still there. The members are mostly elsewhere now. The Sunday service that used to fill the building has gone from 200 to 40. A man named James Johnson Sr., whose family has been in Princeville for 5 generations, told the Raleigh News and Observer in 2018, quote, "They keep telling us to leave. Floyd, they told us to leave. Matthew, they told us to leave. Every flood." The answer from Washington is the same. Take the money and go. Like our hometown is a problem they are tired of solving, end quote. James Johnson Sr. died in 2022. His son lives in Greenville. His grandson lives in Richmond. The Johnson House in Princeville is still standing. Nobody lives there. Princeville is being rebuilt wrong by 1,000 small refusals to rebuild it right. The levee is too low. The federal aid is too slow. The planning support is too thin. And underneath all of it is the quiet question of whether anyone in power actually wants this place to survive. The first black town in America is being allowed to die by neglect, while everyone with a microphone says the right things on Black History Month and goes home and forgets the name. Number 6 is what happens when the system is indifferent. Number 5 is what happens when the system is not indifferent, when the system sees money in the wreckage and moves in. Number 5, Mexico Beach, Florida. Hurricane Michael's Ghost Coast. October 10th, 2018. Hurricane Michael, a Category 5 storm at landfall, the first Category 5 to hit the continental United States since Hurricane Andrew in 1992, came ashore at Mexico Beach, Florida, with sustained winds of 160 miles per hour and a storm surge that reached 14 feet. Mexico Beach is not a big town. Pre-storm population, about 1,200. After Michael, the National Hurricane Center estimated that approximately 75% of all structures in Mexico Beach were destroyed or rendered uninhabitable. The famous photographs from the day after, the ones that went viral, showed a coastline of nothing but slabs and stilts. You probably remember the storm. You probably do not know what happened to the town in the years since, so I will tell you. 6 years after Michael, Mexico Beach has rebuilt about 40% of its pre-storm housing stock. The remaining 60% of those properties are either still empty lots or have been sold to outside investors for redevelopment as short-term rentals and beach condos. The original residents, the retirees, the small business owners, the working families, most of them did not come back. The replacement population is part-time. It is Airbnb. It is a Tampa investor who owns 3 units and visits twice a year. Population today, approximately 750 year-round residents, down from 1,200. The school district that used to serve the area has been consolidated into Port St. Joe, 15 miles away. The grocery store reopened, then closed, then reopened under different ownership. The medical clinic is part-time, and the property values, for those who did rebuild, have gone up, which sounds good until you realize what it means. It means the town is no longer affordable for the people who built it. A woman named Susan Ezel, who ran a souvenir shop on Highway 98 for 22 years, lost her shop and her home in Michael. She told the Panama City News-Herald in 2021, quote, "I came back. I rebuilt the shop. I lasted 18 months. The customers are different now. The town is different. The people I knew, who came in every Saturday, they are gone. The new people are in and out for a weekend. I closed the shop and moved to Lynn Haven. Mexico Beach is not Mexico Beach anymore. It is just an address on the Gulf where rich people park condos." End quote. Picture this. You drive into Mexico Beach in 2024. The new construction is everywhere. Big houses on big stilts, painted in cheerful pastels, with names like Sundays and Salty Kisses. Many of them have key boxes by the front door. Most of them are dark on a Tuesday in November. The beach is beautiful. The water is beautiful. The town is a stage set. There is no school. There is no doctor. There is no daily life. There is a row of ATMs and short-term rental contracts. This is rebuilt wrong, on purpose. This is what happens when a working-class coastal town gets hawked, in some sections, at over a mile a minute. The town had no warning. The emergency sirens were not activated. People driving down Front Street saw walls of flame appear in their rearview mirror. People in their houses had 30 seconds to decide whether to run or hide. Many of them ran into the ocean and waited for hours in the water while the town burned behind them. At least 102 people died. Some estimates suggest the real number is higher. Bodies in fires of that intensity are not always recovered intact. Lahaina is not just any town. It is the former capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii. It is one of the most historically and culturally significant places in the entire Pacific. The banyan tree on Front Street, planted in 1873, stood for 150 years and was a sacred, living monument. The tree survived the fire, barely, and has been on life support ever since. The pre-fire population of Lahaina town was approximately 12,700. Approximately 3,000 homes were destroyed. Approximately 50% of the town's structures, including most of the historic district, were lost. What is happening now, 15 months after the fire, as I am recording this, is the slow-motion replacement of Lahaina by a different town that will be called Lahaina, but will not be Lahaina. Within weeks of the fire, displaced residents started receiving unsolicited offers for their burned-out lots. Cash offers. From outside investors, real estate firms, individual buyers from California and Nevada, and overseas. The state government had to issue a moratorium on certain sales. Lawsuits started flying, class action against the utility, against the state, against various agencies, and the lawyers involved are positioned to take large percentages of any settlement, while the displaced residents are still living in hotels, in temporary housing, in trailers, paid for by FEMA money that runs out at intervals. Many Native Hawaiian families who had owned land in Lahaina for generations, sometimes since the 1800s, on parcels that had never been subdivided or sold, could not produce clean, modern title documents quickly enough to satisfy insurance companies and federal aid systems. Aid was delayed. Some parcels began to slip into legal limbo. There are credible reports, documented in New York Times and Honolulu Civil Beat investigations, of investor groups specifically targeting these complicated title properties for acquisition. Population of Lahaina today, contested because so many residents are technically still on the rolls but living in motels in Kihei and Kahului and elsewhere on Maui, or have left the island entirely. The school that served Lahaina is operating in temporary facilities. The downtown is fenced off, much of it still hazmat. The rebuilding has barely started, and the fight over what gets rebuilt and for whom is being conducted in conference rooms and courtrooms while 1,000 families wait in two-bedroom hotel suites with their kids. A Native Hawaiian elder named Kakai Keahi told the Honolulu Civil Beat in 2024, quote, "My family has had this land since before there was a state of Hawaii. We had it when there was a kingdom. We had it through annexation. We had it through statehood. And now they want me to prove I have it with a piece of paper that the fire burned. They are trying to take Lahaina from us with paperwork." End quote. Lahaina is being rebuilt wrong in real time, and the wrongness is not an accident. The wrongness is a transfer. The wrongness is an old town with an old population being legally and financially converted, parcel by parcel, into something that will be sold back to tourists at premium prices. If this rebuild finishes the way current trends suggest, in 20 years, Lahaina will be a beautiful, expensive, soulless beach destination, and the people whose ancestors are buried there will be watching it from the mainland, on the news. Number 4 is happening right now. You are watching it happen. You can do nothing about it. The next number is what happens after the rebuilt wrong town has had a few years to settle into its new permanent emptiness. Number 3. Paradise, California. 9,000, where 26,000 used to live. November 8, 2018. The campfire started before dawn at the base of a Pacific Gas and Electric transmission line in the foothills of Butte County, California. Within 4 hours, it had reached the town of Paradise. Within 8 hours, 85 people were dead, and the town of 26,800 was gone. Not damaged, gone. Approximately 95% of structures in the town were destroyed. The fire was so hot in places that aluminum from car engines pooled on the streets. The official death toll of 85 is widely understood by local officials to be conservative. A number of additional deaths from displacement-related causes, heart attacks, suicides, accidents during evacuation, are not in the count. 6 years later, population of Paradise, 2024 estimate, approximately 9,100. From 26,800 to 9,100. That is a 66% population loss, sustained 6 years after the fire, with no clear sign of significant rebound. Paradise has rebuilt. Paradise has rebuilt aggressively. There are streets full of new houses. There is a new fire station, designed with much higher fire-resistant standards. There are evacuation routes that have been redesigned. The town hall is open, the schools are open, the local hospital is operational at reduced capacity. By many measurable infrastructure metrics, Paradise is back. By the metric that matters, are the people back? Paradise is at 34% of itself. The reason is not a mystery. The reason is insurance, and the reason is fear, and the reason is the next fire. Fire insurance in Paradise after the campfire became prohibitively expensive when it was available at all. Some homeowners cannot insure rebuilt homes for any price. Many of the original residents took their settlements from the PG&E bankruptcy, which were significant, and used the money to buy houses elsewhere, in Chico, in Oroville, in Yuba City, in Reno. They are not coming back. The Paradise they remember does not exist. And the Paradise that exists is a town with a known fire scar, where the cost of insurance is a second mortgage. A retired firefighter named Jim Mitchell, who worked 30 years for CAL FIRE and lost his own home in the campfire, told the Sacramento Bee in 2022, quote, "I rebuilt because Paradise is my home, and I am too stubborn to leave. But I will tell you who is not rebuilding. Young families, working people, anybody who needs a 30-year mortgage, because the bank looks at this zip code and the bank says no." Paradise after the fire is a town for retirees with cash and people too stubborn to live anywhere else. We are not getting our young people back, end quote. Picture this. You drive up the Skyway from Chico into Paradise on a clear winter afternoon. The new construction is everywhere, but it is patchy. A new house, an empty lot. A new house, an empty lot. A charred concrete foundation that has never been cleared. The trees that survived the fire are blackened on one side, green on the other. The high school is open. The high school's enrollment is approximately half what it was before the fire. The shopping center has gaps. The downtown, what was the downtown before, has empty parcels where buildings have not been replaced. There are signs that say Paradise Strong. Paradise Strong is on bumper stickers. Paradise Strong is on banners over Skyway Drive. Paradise Strong is true in its way. Paradise is also 2/3 smaller than it was, and the smaller version is the version that will exist for the rest of your life. This is the rebuilt wrong reality of climate disaster in the American West. It is not that the town does not come back. It is that the town comes back at 1/3 strength and stays at 1/3 strength forever, because the conditions that destroyed the town the first time are still there, and the insurance market knows it, and the young families know it, and the chain of social and economic life that needs density to function never reaches the density it needs. Number 3 is the future. Number 3 is what your town might look like in 15 years if it sits in the wrong fire zone, the wrong flood zone, the wrong hurricane corridor. Number 2 is the rebuilt wrong story that became the most famous one in American history, and that you have probably been told the wrong version of for 20 years. Number 2, New Orleans' Lower Ninth Ward, the ward that was allowed to die. August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina. The Industrial Canal Levee failed. The water came into the Lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans in a wall, in the dark, while families slept on their roofs and in their attics. Of the 1,800 deaths officially attributed to Katrina across the Gulf Coast, a disproportionate share occurred in this single neighborhood. Bodies were still being recovered from houses in the Lower Ninth weeks after the storm. Some never were. The Lower Ninth was one of the highest rates of black home ownership in the entire United States before Katrina. People talk about renters and the projects when they talk about post-Katrina New Orleans. The Lower Ninth was not that. The Lower Ninth was 3 and 4 generations of black families on their own land, in houses they owned, on streets where everybody knew everybody. Pre-Katrina population, approximately 14,000. Post-Katrina population, 18 years later, approximately 5,200. 37% return rate. 37. Other neighborhoods of New Orleans came back at much higher rates. Lakeview, which was also catastrophically flooded but is majority white and higher income, came back to approximately 90% of its pre-storm population within a decade. The Lower Ninth came back to 37% and has stayed there. The difference is not a mystery either. The difference is what the Road Home program did and did not do, what the Army Corps of Engineers prioritized for levee improvement and what it did not, where the new schools were rebuilt and where they were not, which insurance companies fought claims hardest and in which zip codes. The famous symbol of Lower Ninth recovery is the Brad Pitt Make It Right Foundation houses, the brightly colored, architect-designed homes built in the years after Katrina to provide affordable, sustainable housing to returning residents. They were beautiful. They were on the cover of magazines. They were also, as has been extensively documented in lawsuits and investigative reporting, they were beautiful. They were on the cover of magazines. They were also, as has been extensively documented in lawsuits and investigative reporting, riddled with construction defects. The wood used in many of them was inappropriate for the New Orleans climate. They rotted, they leaked, they grew mold. Some of them became uninhabitable within 10 years. The foundation was sued. The settlement that came out of those lawsuits was, by any measure, inadequate to the families who had been promised a home and ended up with a moldering shell. Out of 109 houses originally built by the foundation, a significant number have been demolished, condemned, or are currently uninhabitable. The famous symbol of the rebuild became the symbol of the rebuild's failure. But the Make It Right houses are a footnote. The real story of the Lower Ninth is the streets that nobody rebuilt at all. You can drive today, in 2024, down North Galvez Street, down Tennessee Street, down Rain Street, and you will see what 19 years of ___1__ looks like in a black working class neighborhood that the system decided, quietly, to let go. You will see empty lots overgrown with grass and trees. You will see concrete stoops standing alone, leading to nothing. The houses they led to are gone. The families that climbed those steps are gone. The children who played in those yards are grown and living in Houston and Atlanta and Memphis and Baton Rouge. You will see the occasional rebuilt house, lovingly maintained, with an American flag and a no trespassing sign and a security camera, surrounded by 4 empty lots on either side. You will see, every few blocks, a single elderly homeowner sitting on a porch, the last person on the block. You will see what a neighborhood looks like when it has been allowed to die, without anybody having to give the order to kill it. A woman named Charmaine Robinson, who was 8 years old in her family's attic in the Lower Ninth on the night of August 29, 2005, told the Times-Picayune in 2020, quote, "My grandmama lived on Reyna Street. My uncle lived 2 blocks away. My cousins were across the canal. We were a community. After the storm, my grandmama got moved to a FEMA trailer in Mississippi. She died in that trailer. My uncle ended up in Houston. My cousins are in 3 different states. We have family reunions now in hotel ballrooms in Atlanta because there is no place in New Orleans where we can all be on the same block again. They didn't just take our houses, they took the geography of who we were." End quote. The lower 9th Ward was rebuilt wrong because the choice was made slowly, quietly, through 1,000 small bureaucratic decisions about levy priorities and road home payouts and school placements and bus routes and grocery store reopenings and bank lending to not rebuild it right. The choice was not made in a single meeting. The choice was made in the way the rebuild was structured, the way the money was distributed, the way the timelines were set, and the way the press conferences celebrated other neighborhoods while this one waited. The result is a permanent erasure dressed up as recovery. The houses that are there are real. The 37% return rate is a number that means something. The 63% who never came home are a community that does not exist anymore. And never will. Number 2 is what happens when a neighborhood is allowed to die slowly. Number 1 is what happens when the federal government accepts in writing that an entire region of America is a sacrifice zone, and then spends 60 years pretending otherwise. Number 1, Centralia and the anthracite towns of Pennsylvania. The towns America set on fire and walked away from. You have heard of Centralia. You have heard of Centralia because it is the famous one, the one with the smoke coming up through the cracks in Route 61, the one that they say inspired the video game and the movie Silent Hill, the one with the population of 5 people on the most recent count. You have heard of Centralia. You have not heard of the others. In 1962, an underground fire ignited in an exposed coal seam in the Burrow Dump of Centralia, Pennsylvania. The fire spread into the abandoned mine workings beneath the town, workings that connected to the workings under other towns. Because the entire region of central Pennsylvania is a Swiss cheese of 19th century anthracite coal mines, layered 3 and 4 and 5 seams deep beneath the surface. The fire has been burning ever since. It is still burning right now as I am recording this in 2024. It is expected to burn for another 250 years. For 2 decades, the federal and state governments tried to put it out. They drilled, they flushed, they dug trenches. They spent tens of millions of dollars in 1970s and 80s dollars. The fire was bigger than the budget. By the early 1980s, it was clear that the fire could not be extinguished by any technology that existed. The decision was made, quietly, that Centralia and the affected portions of the surrounding towns would have to be evacuated and demolished. In 1984, Congress allocated $42 million for the buyout and relocation of Centralia residents. The town went from approximately 1,000 residents to a few dozen over the next decade. Houses were demolished, streets were closed, the zip code was revoked in 2002. Today, there are 5 recognized residents of Centralia, allowed to live out their lives in the town under a legal settlement, after which their homes will also be demolished and the borough will officially cease to exist. That is the famous story. That is the story you have heard. That is not the story I am telling you, because the story I am telling you is what happened in the towns nobody talks about. There are other Pennsylvania anthracite towns that have been quietly damaged, undermined, or compromised by the same network of underground fires and abandoned mine collapses. Lansford, Coaldale, Carbondale, where a separate underground mine fire burned for 40 years before being declared extinguished. Extinguished, the official report says, with a footnote acknowledging that residual heat in the deeper seams continues to be monitored. Oliphant, Throop, Mackinac, towns where, over the decades, sinkholes have opened in front yards. Towns where homes have had to be condemned because the ground beneath them was warm to the touch. Towns where federal and state buyouts have happened, but quietly, without press conferences, without national attention, with the affected families dispersed to Wilkes-Barre and Scranton and Hazleton and beyond. These towns are not Centralia. They have not been completely erased. They are partial erasures. They are towns where some streets are gone and other streets remain, where some neighborhoods were bought out and demolished and others were left to fend for themselves, where the population has steadily declined for 60 years and where the surface has periodically opened up and swallowed a garage or a porch or a section of road. These towns have been quote to when they were rebuilt at all, without ever having been rebuilt. The federal government accepted in the early 1980s that the underground fires in some of these areas could not be extinguished. The federal government did not say so to the residents. The federal government continued to issue mortgages, continued to deliver mail, continued to collect taxes, while the ground beneath those houses smoldered. Picture this. You are in a small town in Schuylkill County, or Carbon County, or Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. The town has a name that ends in ville, or dale, or ton. The main street has a few buildings still in business: a bar, a pizza place, a hardware store run by a man whose grandfather opened it. The main street also has a lot of buildings that are not in business: boarded windows, overgrown lots, houses with no trespassing signs, and condemnation notices fading on the doors. The population sign at the edge of town shows a number that has been crossed out and replaced and crossed out again. The school you went to is closed. The kids are bused 40 minutes to a regional consolidated school. The hospital that delivered you is closed. The nearest one is 50 minutes away. There is no doctor in town. There is no pharmacy. There are old people on porches, and there is a lot of silence. And underneath the town, the seams are still warm. Some of them, in some places. Nobody is sure where exactly, because the maps of the abandoned mine workings from the 1870s and 1880s were incomplete, and many were lost. The Federal Office of Surface Mining Reclamation and Enforcement maintains a watch list. The watch list is not public in detail. A man named Frank Yashinsky, whose family worked the anthracite mines for 4 generations and who lives in a town I am not going to name because his daughter still lives there, told a regional reporter in 2019, quote, "They evacuated Centralia and put it on the news because Centralia was small and the fire was right there in the road. They didn't evacuate us because we are bigger and the damage is slower and you can hide it. My uncle's house slipped 2 feet sideways in 1987. The county said it was settling. It was not settling. It was a mine collapse. They paid him off and made him sign a paper. He could not talk about it. We are all still here. The ground is still warm in some places. Nobody wants to know." End quote. These towns are number 1 not because they are the most dramatic. Centralia is more dramatic. Lahaina is more dramatic. Paradise is more recent. These towns are number 1 because they are the longest-running rebuilt wrong story in America, because they have been failing for 60 years, because the federal government decided in a closed room that this entire stretch of central Pennsylvania was a managed retreat zone, and then never told the people living there, and because the slow erasure is so slow and so quiet that even the residents have a hard time naming what is happening to them. They are not rebuilding it wrong. They are erasing it on purpose, and they are calling it a rescue. And you have been driving through these towns on family road trips and hunting trips and weekend drives for 40 years, and you did not know. That is number 1. That is the worst rebuilt wrong story in America, and the reason it is the worst is that you have never heard of it. That is the list. 10 American towns, 10 different ways to fail, 10 different ways for the houses to go up while the town goes away. Greensburg with its green awards and empty streets. Joplin with its strip malls on top of a tornado scar. Cedar Rapids with its missing trees and its 90 degrees of unshaded asphalt in July. Waverly, forgotten in 6 months. Princeville, left to drown by a federal aid system that does not love black towns. Mexico Beach converted into a portfolio of beach rentals. Lahaina being taken by lawyers in real time, Paradise at 34% of itself with no insurance available for the rest, the lower 9th Ward at 37% return rate, allowed to die by neglect, and the Pennsylvania anthracite towns where the federal government accepted defeat before most of the residents were born and never told them. The pattern is the same in every single case. The buildings come back, the community does not. The reasons it does not vary: climate, money, race, attention, geology, capital. But the result is identical. America has discovered that you can pour the concrete without restoring the town, and that the concrete is what shows up in the press release. The town is what shows up in the silence. I want you to think about your own zip code. I want you to think about the kind of disaster that is most likely to hit your area in the next 20 years. Fire if you are out west. Hurricane if you are on the Gulf or the Atlantic. Flood if you are anywhere near a river that has been engineered with levees that are older than your grandfather. Tornado if you are in the corridor. Derecho if you are in the new corridor that does not have a name yet. Whatever your hazard is coming. And when it comes, the recovery process that follows is going to look like one of the 10 stories you just heard. The houses are going to come back. The town is going to come back at 60%, or 40%, or 30%. The ribbon cutting will be on the local news. The rest of the country will move on. And the place you remember will be in your head, and only in your head, for the rest of your life. This is Report State. We do not deal in hope. We deal in zip codes. Hit subscribe, because next time we are doing the opposite story. The towns in America that did not get hit by anything dramatic, that have no fire scar and no flood line and no tornado memorial, and that are dying anyway. Slowly, quietly, without an excuse. The towns that are stuck in the past on purpose, and the people who run them, and the reason they want it that way. That is the next episode. Until then, when you drive through a town with a memorial on the courthouse lawn, look past the memorial. Count the empty lots. Count the boarded windows. Count the schools that have been consolidated. Count the children. The town is in the count, not the concrete. Stay sharp.